Welcome to another episode of Black Belts and Boardrooms, where we talk to leaders who have earned their stripes through the craft that they have mastered over time. And today, I am really excited because we have somebody who is not only a friend of the podcast, but somebody who has work experience with my dear friend and co-host, Renard. Renard, please tell us a little bit about our guest today.
Man, I'm honored to have this person on the podcast. Got to work with him, and I say with him for a couple of years in the trenches. Man, I've seen him grow from who he was in year one to this year where he's everywhere now. Anytime I see him, he's in a suit, he's talking, he's speaking, he's a board advisor now. It's good to see people who are winning, and I love to congratulate that. Today we have Mr. Amir Habib on
Yes.
the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Renard and Amir, for inviting me and to this great podcast. I'm very excited, very honored. I do listen to the podcast, and we were just, talking before this starting, and you guys got some big hitters like Phil, and it's incredible to be included in that lineup. So thank you. Very humbled.
Well, Amir, I really like your name.
Me too. I love that name. I think it's a great name.
Yeah. So not to confuse our listeners, just to level set before we get into it, I'm going to refer to our guest Amir Habib as Habib, and he's been gracious to allow us to do it that way. And this way, we won't confuse our friend Renard in any capacity. So when he says Amir, I know I'm the one who's being asked, and not our
Right.
guest Amir Habib. So Habib, thank you again so much for
My
making time
pleasure.
to us.
Thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. And let me ask you something because as I was digging into your background and I was just kind of learning about you and your work history a little bit just to put together some engaging questions for us today. The very first thing that struck me is your intentionality behind your LinkedIn handle.
Yes.
Usually you see people leave the default with numbers and whatnot, and that looks really awkward. But you really have just doubled down on your persona and you have your handle as trusted leader. Tell us about that. It's not an accident, it's very intentional, but please tell us about that.
All right. It's something that, being in leadership and everything else is very important to me. And part of a leader is words matter, period. The way you communicate and the way you're dealing with people. At the end of the day, when leadership, you're dealing with people, right? Everything else is just management. And, you know, a leader in my mind has to be trusted to be an effective leader. Without trust, you're not going to be able to get the results. You're not going to be able to lead people, and nobody's going to follow you, right? And if nobody's following you, you're just a dude walking, taking a walk. So that's why I chose trusted leader.
I love it. I would also want to pick on what you just now said. The rest of it is management. In your own words, how would you describe what is the difference between leading and managing?
That's so from my perspective, the way I see it is you lead people, right? You tap into their capabilities and help them grow and become that person that you see them they are, right? And managing is you manage projects, budgets, things, but you lead people. So there's a big differentiation between those two.
I like the simplicity of your answer. It is so easy. I think we can put it on a 3 by 5 note card.
There you go.
So, you've had quite the storied career. You started as an engineer working in a knock, and now you're a global executive. Um, how would you describe that journey? You've spent time both in the trenches and away from it. You're leading teams now across the world. How do you how do you describe that journey? What were some of the most important parts of that journey that made you realize that leadership is really the next stage of my career for me?
Right. I started out as a knock engineer out of school. And from that, I started developing a love for leadership, right? Watching people, learning. I was hungry for that. And over the time, I had opportunities to work with leaders, executives, and some have inspired me and took me under their wing and taught me, right? From there, I've been given an opportunity to lead the knock team. That was my first opportunity. I was 25 years old, working for a large telecom company, and that was just incredible. At 25 years old, and you're responsible for a knock. And from there, I had people reporting to me that have more education, been working for the company longer than I've been living. So that was very humbling. And I had to learn and dive into what leadership really meant. And of course, throughout the career path, I made mistakes as a leader, right? From the type of leadership to how to deal with people. Um, and I just read lots of books, reading, right? They always say, leaders are readers, right? So that is something that I'm sure a lot of your listeners, and I'm sure you guys heard it too. Um, from there, I got into working for a startup company based out of San Antonio. And from there, that was my exposure to a bigger team, to a global team. And then it started going from there to multinational teams and working and traveling and dealing with executives and things like that, right? Right now, currently, I work with leadership teams as well as with executives in strategy, in digital transformation, and AI, right? So, which is really, really eye-opening to see some of them and to see some of the new leaders and some of the young leaders and how they think. It's more they're more people focused now than before, um, which is great because in today's society, there's more focus on people, mental health, and mentoring as well. So I'm happy to see that.
I'm reminded that as we use more and more I think that people element is going to become more important because we're trading a
Right?
knowledge worker for a worker that has judgment, and that
Right.
judgment becomes very, very important. So, on that note, how would you describe a young person, engineer or otherwise, or any profession, looking to become a leader like yourself? What would be some of the things that they should be thinking about and doing?
So they need to think about what their true north. That's what they need to be thinking about. They need to take time, go silent. And when I say silent, go somewhere where you are just with your thoughts, nothing else, right? A silent retreat, which I've gone to when I was younger. And those helped me kind of figure out what my true north is, my true, get to know yourself in an intimate level, right? In today's world, we're so busy. We're either on computers, we got television, we got, phones, iPads, and we really keep ourselves busy and not really reflecting on who we are and our strength and our weaknesses and what we need to do to go to the next level. Um, so that's figuring out your true north. Get to know yourself. Get to know your strength. Focus on your strength. Build on your strength, right? Your weaknesses, right? Bring them up. They don't have to be your strength, but just bring them up to par. That's a big thing. Focus on people. Learn and read about people, right? Get inspired. Learn the different kind of leadership there is. Which one fits you, right? find someone that can mentor you, right? So those are the big things that I think that will help a young individual engineers go into leadership, right? So, and you can always learn from bad leaders and good leaders what not to do and what to do. And at the end of the day, you got to find your voice as a leader. We all have voices, and you got to find that. And you can't find it without knowing your true north.
Yeah. I like that. Your true north. I like that. I gotta start rethinking what's my true north sometime. I think it changes from time to time. So I
And
think
that's
I gotta
okay. That's
revisit
part of the
that.
journey. And,
Yeah.
we all change, we all evolve, right? We mature, we have experiences, right?
You're right. You're right. Man, I would definitely say I'm kind of curious, we talk about where you are now and what you're doing with digital transformation. I know AI has to be one of the most major topics that are talked about in every meeting, etc. What's those conversations that look like for you now since AI is the main topic in almost every leadership conversation? What does that look like for you?
Um, it is very exciting conversation. It could be very intense conversation at the same time. Exciting because what the future holds and where AI is. AI currently is in its infancy, and as we all know, it evolves so quickly. Look at Anthropics just rolled out a new large language model. What is it, Mythos, right? And how powerful it is. Um, and when I'm sitting down with leadership executives, or even advising the board on that, it is the fact that we're not here to replace people. It is a tool to help us be better and to quickly, push the business to go quicker. A lot of people have this mindset that AI will replace people. It does not replace people. It replaces tasks. You still need people. It opens up opportunities for people, right? The challenge is changing that mindset of replacement to enhancing, right? And also, the conversation is about trust. Going back to trust. Without trust, you'll have people that are going to, push away from AI, speak negatively about AI, low adoption. Um, and we don't want that. We want them to leverage AI as a tool and to help make their lives easier so they can focus on the higher task, not on the lower tasks.
I'm gonna take a step back for a second. You used to be big into sports, rugby, etc.
Yes.
Rugby was one of your big sports. When did you make that decision that tech was gonna be one of those major decisions? Was that college, or did you think that you were gonna go and just become this international rugby star at some point?
The way I got into rugby is a buddy of mine in college played rugby, and he introduced me. He know that I wanted to play football, played in high school football, and I wanted to play for a D1 school football. Um, that didn't work out, right? I got D2, D3, but I was, just had it locked in my mind. I wanted to do D1 football. And then rugby came along. And he's like, "Why don't you come out? Let's try it," you know? And, you know, thanks to him, I got into rugby and played it. Fell in love with the sports, and all three kids played rugby. And anyways, getting into tech side of the house, you start talking about rugby, I could go on, and on. But getting into tech was supposed to be a temporary. It was supposed to be a tool to pay for college, right? And that was how I got into tech. My, my goal was going to be actually international business law. That was my focus. That's what I wanted. Um, but little did I know, life took a turn and got into tech, fell in love with tech. I always been tinkering with tech when I was a kid. Remember getting a computer at a young age and just fell in love with it. And I figured, you know what? Do what you love and, it won't be like work. And that's how I got into tech and I fell in love with it.
I'm curious. I want to go back to rugby. What did rugby teach you to get you prepared for technology and for leadership going forward? Because, like you said, you were using it as a tool
Right.
for college, and then it became something you love. What did rugby teach you to get you prepared for that side?
So rugby taught me is basically very quick decision making, right? When you have the ball and you're running down the field, you have split seconds to make a call and and it's a team sport at the end of the day, right? And the goal is to move the ball forward. And you know, that's taught me how to think quickly and make quick decisions. And that's how I applied it into tech as well as into leadership. My leadership came when I was the captain at SMU for the Ford rugby team. So that's how I learned leadership. Now, what's really interesting is I wasn't the fastest, I wasn't the strongest, but one thing that I did was I always worked hard. Before practice, I would go in early. After practice, I was the last one to leave. I had to work out. I had to be able to compete. And that's what rugby taught me is, to grind in and to persevere through adversity, right? And with technology moving so quickly, you know, I applied those soft skills into that.
Man, I can say rugby is a good transition. I think for me personally, it started off as football. I wanted to do the same thing. I wanted to play for a D1
Right?
school, etc. But I wound up getting hurt. So all of a sudden, this magic thing called jujitsu came along
Right?
and has transformed. Man, has transformed me into somebody that I don't think my 20-year-old self would even be able to notice. So I get there's a lot of leadership qualities in sports that
Absolutely.
ties into what happens in your professional world. So I love that tie happens. And I want to go back to when we're talking about global digital transformation. Some people don't understand what digital transformation is. They hear the word, they're not sure what that means. I would love for you to just give our listeners an understanding around digital transformation.
Absolutely. So with digital transformation, a lot of people think, and it's about technology, right? It has to do very, I would say, not a lot about technology, but about people and how they work and how we resolve business issues, right? Um, so, for example, how do we help people focus on the higher tasks? How can we leverage technology to serve the business, right? To to enable them to do bigger and better things as individuals and to grow as well, right? These tasks that could be automated, that time could be reinvested into growing the business and that money to help grow the business and invest in the people as well. So, from digital transformation, people think it's all about technology. And yes, it does have to do with technology. But at the end of the day, technology is a small part of changing the mindset and focusing on the people and their tasks.
So when you think about transformation, what I'm hearing from you is it's more about the people than anything else, right? So you made some comments about AI, and I'm curious to tie those two together now. When we talk about digital transformation and AI together, are there any parts of that value chain that leaders in the board or the C-suite are getting right, and what are they getting also wrong in your view that could help others maybe avoid those pitfalls, or at least using them as learning opportunities?
Right. I think what they're getting wrong that I've heard them say is, what can we do to cut costs? And usually they associate cutting cost with people. And that's getting it wrong, right? With digital transformation and AI, if I'm able to release capacity of 30% of your tasks, that's great, right? That means that we could leverage technology to focus on the higher level tasks and to shift the work left, and to where it's automated. And that's a big thing. Um, so that is very, what I believe is thinking that digital transformation and AI will cut costs by, you know, laying off people, right? And you're seeing now in the news these big articles saying X company laid off thousands of people, and a few months later they're like, "Oh, we made a mistake. Now we got to rehire some people," right? So that is absolutely a misconception that you could just go in and cut costs by letting go people. You cut costs by looking for efficiency, by reinvesting the money in the right product, right projects. That's a huge thing. What they got right is that they're open minded about it. They're willing to listen and to learn about it. Right? Some at first they were like, no, we can't do AI and all this, right? But now, what they're getting right is they're setting up committees, AI committees, governance, um, just to focus on AI, right? If a company's not focusing on AI, they'll be out of business. It's just a matter of time, period, right? Doesn't matter how big you are. If you're not leveraging AI, you're not adopting AI, you don't have a strategy for AI, you'll be out of business. So what they're doing right is they're focusing on AI. How can we adopt it? Right. And adopting it in the right way, not just taking AI and just kind of throwing it into the environment and saying, okay, AI, we have AI now. Great. We have AI. What does it do? How does it help the business? And, that's a huge thing. So kudos to the CEOs and to the boards that are saying, hey, we need to have governance. We need to have serious conversations about it. They encourage their people to adopt it and reward them for it. And you'll see in the future, and more companies will be doing this, is part of their end year review, right? It's going to be, hey, how are you leveraging AI? How are you helping us to integrate AI and use it to help the business for efficiency and to grow the business? So,
On that note, I'll share with you something that I've been thinking about, and I'd love to get your reaction to it, because I think it ties neatly with what you just now were talking about, bringing AI into a business. So the three ways in which I see AI helping workforce in general, and this is just a general workforce question, it's through automation, like you mentioned.
mhm,
It's through augmentation, helping me do my job better.
right.
And then it's through assistance. Do you find that these three things show up either together, separately, or differently in the work that you do? Maybe this is just too high level of a question because right now everybody's targeting automation. What's your reaction or take on that?
Um, I'm starting to see sometimes some people are adopting one at a time or all three or two of those, right? The successful ones are adopting all three. Um, so my perspective is, and what I'm seeing is they're pushing to adopt all three, the automation and the assistance, right? And leveraging agents. That is the Amir, you said it. I mean, the way you thought about it, that's the recipe. That is the recipe success for digital transformation right there. right? And not
So
too many people are able to point that out. But kudos to you.
well, thank you. I was looking more for your reaction, but this is a good validation and affirmation, so I feel real good about myself.
Yeah, I
Thanks.
mean, yeah.
Well, it's always fascinating to me because I feel just by talking to you, you have a very broad view of the industry. So I'm always curious about folks with a broad view. Some of us don't get to look into many different industries as you do, and I think that breadth that you bring is what I want to tap into. So as I poke that a little bit more, help us understand how we can think about the the way agents are currently being deployed, and governance, as you indicated, definitely a big part of that. How do you guide organizations when they talk about governance and agents? Because at the end of the day, all agents are non-deterministic, and the outputs that will happen at the time of executing the work
Right.
can be non-deterministic, right? And I'm reminded of Pocket OS as an example from 2 or 3 weeks ago. I'm sure you're familiar with that one too.
Yes.
How do you guide organizations when it comes to the deployment of agents in their environments?
Deployment of agents is something that has to be um, a controlled um, way of deployment. And the reason I say that is you're absolutely correct. It has to be checked, right? You have to protect the data, right? And you have to know what it does with the data. And somebody else has to check the work, right? It can't be, an agent should be reporting to a human, if you will, right? To check on the work and to make sure it's done properly. And that's where the governance steps in, right? Of course, with governance, you'll have involved legal and you'll have infosec and you know, um, HR in some aspects, right? And leadership as well. Um, and agents should be not fully relied on from perspective of deployment and doing the work, but as a tool from to get those manual tasks out of the way from reporting perspective, to get the numbers, to crunch the numbers, to put the reports, right? But again, at the end of the day, somebody has to own that, right? And to verify the information on it.
Do you think an AI could be a compliance agent by itself?
Ooh, it's what is it? What's the old adage? The fox watching the chicken coop, right? That's there's a lot of stories out there, and I'm sure you guys read about them. As AI progresses, and eventually it's going to end up deceiving us. And it found out that AI wants to appease us, right? So I'm not. I'm not ready yet you know, to put it on cruise control.
So, how do you use AI? Now I'm curious.
Um, I use AI with basically, if I need to crunch numbers, um, if I need to help, if I have a long document that it needs to be summarized, that I don't have time to go through it. I've recently deployed it at home in my home lab, OpenClaw, right? And I leverage that for personal emails to go through and just kind of make sure that we all get junk mail, and I still have filters, and I still get junk mail. So to filter through email to make quick responses, I use it for to grab news, right? From regarding AI, I tell it to go out there and to scan the internet. I'd say, find reputable resources like, this person, this site, and watch the YouTube videos and report back to me and let me know, summarize it for me and give me 5 recommendation of videos to watch and 5 articles to read a day and to help me be efficient, right? Uh, so also with vibe coding, right? So I'm starting to get into that a little bit. And again, I like to tinker, right? I enjoy tinkering, and that's something that if you love to do, it's not work. But I'm very fortunate to be able to tinker and to be able to do it, on a strategy level, and to work with other smart people that are extremely intelligent and very talented and able to keep up with them on some aspects, right? But sometimes they just go way over my head. I'm like, okay, you got to dumb it down for me, please. Make it less complex.
Yeah, and AI is generally pretty good about making things less complex. If I prompt it enough times, it'll dumb it down for me too. Just
Absolutely, right? I mean, that's
yeah.
that's part of also, leadership is to take, that's a personal philosophy of mine is I like to take complex things and make it less complex, right? So people could process it and digest it, and you could actually have an understandable direction where the team needs to go with it. So and one thing I say is strategy, gets the attention, but at the end of the day, it's the execution that gets the result, right? So it's important to take complex situations, right? Simplify it, put a strategy behind it, then the team could focus on the execution, right? And that's helps with accountability across the board.
Habib, you've heard the adage, culture eats strategy for breakfast. Peter
Yes.
Drucker, right? How do you, or have you seen an organization where you've come in, you're talking about AI, but the culture is resistant to it? How do you deal with that environment when you want to bring in that strategy to help the business succeed?
Well, it goes down to trust, period. I'm coming in with a tool that could do the lower tasks, and it's getting smarter, and we're training you're training it, right? And now you're worried about your job, you're gonna be replaced by AI. It requires trust. And if I'm working with you and saying, "Hey, this is not gonna replace you. This is gonna take the lower tasks away," and that way you could help focus on the bigger tasks, right? More value add tasks versus no value add tasks, right? That requires trust. And that's a big thing is trust. And again, it goes down to people level, right? It's, it might be, technology and without that what is it? Kneecap to kneecap conversation, which is like face to face, right? And they are hearing you being sincere about not replacing, resources or people or, I hate the word resources. I don't know why I said it, but people. Um, and, it's requiring trust. It comes down to trust, period. If you want adoption, you have to have trust.
I like it. I like it. Um, Now, I have to say this. Of course, we talked off the air. Me and Habib used to work together at a company that of course we're not going to say any names out here, but we worked together in the trenches, and I definitely have to say, Habib, that I've seen you grow. You're definitely a trusted leader.
Thank you.
I trusted you when we worked together, and there were times that you saw more in me when some days I didn't see more in myself some days. So definitely, I definitely do appreciate that. But I wanna get on a subject around legacy. We talk about work, professional, etc. But what does legacy look like for you at the end of the day?
Oh man, it's funny you asked that question. I was thinking about it yesterday. I take, you know, about 5 to 10 minutes a day, just kind of no distraction and just kind of focus on my thoughts, right? And legacy came to mind. And legacy is something for me is, some people look at legacy as like leaving, you know, trust funds and things like that. But legacy is touching somebody's life and changing it and paying it forward. Because you don't know when you touch that person's life and you change it and you help them to get to their next level and to live up to their potential, you don't know who they're going to be inspiring. And that person can be inspired by another person, right? And that is a legacy right there. That's how you live on, right? It's touching people lives into making them better. That is a legacy. That's a legacy that withstands. That's how you're remembered.
That touched me a little bit there when he said that. I definitely understand where you're
I
coming from
mean,
on that.
Amir and you, Renard, I mean, you guys are setting up a great legacy, right? You're talking to leaders. You're inspiring young leaders, right? And inspiringly, that's a huge thing, you know? And from there, they take that inside and they have intrinsic motivation to go after their goal and to have the belief, which is a huge thing as a leader that you need, is belief, right? That takes courage. And for them to take the first step and to leap of faith and to grow and to take, risks.
Habib, I'm reminded you did launch a mentorship program as well recently, didn't you?
I did not. I joined it, Empower, as a mentor. It's a great program. I was introduced to it with one company, which was it's a financial institution, and it was called VOW, Veterans on Wall Street, and the organization is Empower, and Empower works with veterans that are transitioning from the military over to civilian life, and they also help communities that are underserved. And it's something near and dear to my heart is giving back, right? And that's I got involved with the program. It was excited. I just got my first person to mentor and a couple of days ago, and I'm looking forward to working with them and seeing them grow and flourish. And it's a huge thing. And by the way, as leaders, we all should give back. Period. That
Couldn't
is
agree
something.
more.
That is something that we're all should be required to do. If you're going to be a leader, you're required to give back.
Yeah. And I know Renard and I talk about this giving back topic, and the podcast, to exactly the point you mentioned, is one of the ways in which we like to give back. And I know,
Yes.
Renard is part of Make a Wish Foundation as well on the board.
Right.
So I know he does that outside of this podcast as well.
Yeah. And, part of this organization that I got involved with as advisory board is ASOP, right? And they focus on AI literacy. And they don't want they want people to adopt AI. And going back to saying, how do we train the next generation, we train people, to leverage AI as a tool, right? And we don't want to limit people saying you have to spend a lot of money, you're not from the right zip code, so you don't have the right tools to access it, and so forth. So they basically set it up, and it's access to everybody, from kids to adults.
I gotta ask this, Habib, who inspired you? We talk about being inspired and, you're mentoring people, etc. But who inspired you throughout your career for you to decide, okay, I want to be a leader, I want to start mentoring other people? Who inspired you?
Um, I was very fortunate. Um, I come from a family that are, you know, it's humbly, I mean, I'm very humbled by that to be part, and to be born in a family like this. They're leaders, right? My grandfather was the first Ford manufacturer in Egypt, right? Third grade education. His dad died when he was young, and he just grinded away. And he opened up, a manufacturing company, and he had to deal with Ford. My father was a brigadier general. My other grandfather was engineer architect, and he had his own company. My sister, my mother, right? My faith. Um, and throughout the career, I had very great leaders. I got to work with you, Renard. That's an inspiring leader. I got folks since you know um, just just got lucky, I guess. I mean, very blessed, I should say, not lucky, blessed, I would say. So I cannot pinpoint to a particular person, but it was how they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it takes a village to make a leader, and that's a village of leaders, right? So
I like that. It takes
Definitely.
a village to make a leader. I like that. It takes a village of leaders to make a leader. And that sounds like that might be the title of this episode, maybe.
I was gonna say the same
It
thing.
might have to be the title of this episode. I will definitely say, from my aspect, we just talked about people that have inspired me. You are definitely one of them.
thank
Like I
you.
said, we we've worked together. We've been in the trenches together. Like I said, there were some days, some weeks, sometimes some months where, you know, I needed someone to pick me up, through some of those days. So definitely, you were definitely one of those through some of those hard times. So I definitely, like I said, you inspire me as much as you say I inspire you.
Thank you.
You inspire me as well for me to continue to get better and to me to mentor more people. So don't think that just because you are an inspiration to other people as well. So remember that.
I appreciate that. Thank you. I mean, it's a very humbling position to be in, right? It's to be able to help folks reach their potential, and I get excited about that. I'm like a cheerleader, right? I mean, I want to see people succeed, and I get very passionate about it. I want to see people win. Period. I love winning. So, and I want to see others. Winning by yourself, not for me, really. Winning as a team, absolutely.
I think it shows starting with your LinkedIn handle, trusted leader. That's you didn't put your name, you put the attribute that you want to be recognized by, and I
Right.
think that's commendable.
And that's one thing I loved about rugby is we didn't have last names on our jerseys. You're just a number. You're part of the team.
Yeah. So, on that note, I wanna come back to AI, but I wanna come from a different angle on this thing. Everybody talks about AI and geopolitics, the data center, the environmental impacts that AI is gonna have, workplace displacement, et cetera, et cetera. If you put yourself back, rewind yourself to the 22-year-old self of yours working in a data center, what would you tell your younger self today, knowing what you know?
Knowing what I know, I I would tell myself patience is a huge thing. Patience is a virtue, right? Because when I was younger, I was very impatient. I wanted things now. I wanted to go after it. I wanted, results. And that right there is uh it's a double-edged sword. You can get yourself in trouble, and you could also, propel yourself with that. It's when to have the patience with it, right? So regarding the AI and everything else, um, I would say, that's a good question. I have to give some thought to that. So, um, yeah, I don't know what I would say right now about
That
AI because it wasn't there yet. I mean, I don't think I would have had that thought process to get to that point where saying, "Oh, AI is gonna be this huge thing in data centers, and it's gonna impact the economy, the environment, and you're gonna have you know all this great things with it." I don't know if my younger self would have been able to comprehend that.
Yeah. I mean, and forgive me for putting you on the spot like that, Habib.
No,
I was
there's nothing. No, this is
yeah,
great. This is now you're giving me, this evening when I, take my 5-10 minutes, I'm going to think about that. So yeah.
yeah.
What about you? What about you guys?
Yeah. So since I put you on the spot, I'll go first, Renard, if you don't mind. I was, to be fair, so I use that question as a proxy because I know there's a lot of young people out there who are unsure, and I look at my own children who are 19, almost 20, and 18, almost 19-year-old, and the commentary I would share with my younger self, given what I know today and where AI is going to take the society at large, is keep working at your craft because at the end of the day, that was the younger me, constantly refining, constantly learning, going deep, but also at the same time, trying to find intersectionality in the work that I was doing. So I was not somebody who wanted to be in tech either, like you. I actually wanted to go to med school. And interestingly enough, you wanted to go to law school.
Right.
And it just so happened that technology was, you know, accessible to me. We're talking about the early to mid 90s. So it was
Right.
right in the dot-com boom. And I found it, or I recognized it as a way for me to pay for college and help my immigrant family and so on and so
Yes.
forth, right? So it was a very intentional financial decision more than a passion, if you will. But it had become my passion because I realized along the way, I'm a builder and a problem solver.
Right.
So it served the need unbeknownst to me. I thought being a doctor was like the best thing because it was problem solving on people, but I recognize along the way that this could serve that same purpose. So to answer my own question, if you will, keep working at my craft. Love the patience commentary because that's another thing I think that's very important is keep working with patience
Yes.
as you get better because AI will speed up everything, all the tasks that we would take for granted or all the tasks we do today that are manual, if you will. And where it becomes very important, I'll come back to something I said earlier, which is judgment. And to build judgment, you need to have information, and that information only comes through building and mastering your craft.
Right.
So that's how I would, advise my younger self.
One thing I definitely you just hit a lot of great points. But another thing I would tell myself is the younger self, build on critical thinking, especially with AI. Need that, right? So yeah. So you're able to discern the information you're getting and to help problem solve. Yeah, that's good.
See, for me, if I talk to my 20-year-old self, and man, I just thought about this, Amir, that we had a whole episode around what will we tell our younger selves. So it's good to bring this back around. Just far as technology is concerned, I would tell myself just be ready for multiple changes
Yes.
throughout your life. I think about when I first started when dial up just came around, chat rooms just came around. It was a big deal.
Oh yeah.
It was a big deal when that came around. So just understanding how fast stuff changes in the span of probably like 30 years, the amount of changes we've seen. You go to .com,
Right.
etc. I remember people were afraid of the internet at one point in time. So it's just being adjusted to that, but also be a vigorous reader. Start off early, don't wait till late, start learning more, start, just being in the circle. Start learning tech a lot earlier than I made the decision to do that. But I think for me, it's just continue to be inspired by people.
Right.
Um, I would tell myself that, and just say, hey, you're gonna do some great things in a couple of years that will probably shock you as well, and you're gonna meet some great people as well. But going back to technology, just continue to adjust to change. Don't be afraid that change is coming. How can I adapt to it? How can I learn it? How can I grow from it? How can I get better at my own craft
Right.
because this new technology has come around? We are probably in one of the last groups that have come from no technology in a sense to having so much technology. You know, internet for me starting off used to be a place I used to go to. I worked on it and then I walked away, and now it's with me everywhere I go. So same thing with AI. Just grow with it, understand it, you know, get better with it. How can I be more efficient? How can I use this to just get better at my low hanging fruit skills, etc. And just how can I get faster at what I'm doing? So that's what I would tell my younger self, and just man, just enjoy the ride at the same time.
So those young listeners that are listening to your podcast, take note.
Yeah. Take note, pay
Absolutely.
attention. Pay attention.
Absolutely.
But no, but you know what? The young listener, we talking about very young listeners. We're talking about probably people in college, etc.
Yeah,
You know what?
absolutely.
Sometimes put the phone down. That's what I would say. I know I sound old when I say put the phone down every so often. I would also say, and this is me going on a little rant here, and I just had this conversation about technology in general. There's some things you don't have to reinvent the wheel with technology as well. Like I don't need a QR code for a menu. I don't need that. We've solved the problem on menus. There's a menu, there's food on the menu. We don't need a QR code for me to use that, go on my phone and read the menu. We've solved some things. There's no need to add certain things like that. So that's the last of my rant on, but love technology. Love technology.
Technology is
Yeah,
fun, especially when you tinker with it, right?
Definitely.
Renard, you're giving me an idea. We should have an episode on just rants of Renard.
Man, I would love that. We could do like a 30-minute of that. Oh, I think that would actually be a good one. We should think about that. Same thing, rants for Amir as well. I think 30 minutes of that would be a great episode.
There you go. There you go. We'll have to noodle on that offline.
Yeah.
So, Habib, as we come to the end here, I want to make sure that we close with something fun. And what we've been doing is just quick lightning round type questions. Are you up for that?
Shoot. Yeah. Ready.
Okay. All right. So, country, city, or office, best place you've ever led a team.
Ooh. Um, Best place I ever led a team. I would have to say, wow. I would say the Eastern European team.
Okay. All right.
And the reason is, I mean, these guys are very, very impressive. So they think outside the box. They figure out how to be efficient. They want to execute, focusing on execution, right? Again, strategy just gets attention, execution gets results. And I love getting results. And with results, you win. So I have to say, Eastern European team that is able to execute and get those results. They're result driven.
There you go. If anybody from the Eastern European team is listening, Habib said it.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Habib, do you like brisket?
I love brisket. Yes.
Okay. So, low and slow or AI optimized? How would you cook it?
Ooh, low and slow. Like Bernard said, there's some things that just leave alone. It's
I like it.
it's a process. It's waking up early, and the day before, prepping the brisket, and it's just getting the fire prepped, and I just a few months ago, no, actually a few weeks ago, I was up in Ohio visiting my son and his family, and we got a smoker and we smoked brisket, and it was fun. It was that the conversations, right? That you just, yeah.
All right. I like it. Low and slow. I'm with you on that. It's a solved problem. We don't need to make it any more challenging.
No. And it goes back to that relationship, right? You gotta have that relationship.
Yep. All right, last one. And this is gonna sound like the start of a bad joke, but I promise you
Okay.
it's not a bad joke. Okay, you've got a therapist, a venture capitalist, and a math PhD in your family. Tell us something about your Sunday night's dinner. How do they go? Who's running the conversation?
Well, usually, my son has replaced me in this. I usually like, ask a question to instigate things. And we started like getting into these deep conversations and these kind of debates, if you will, very passionate debates. I'm Egyptian, right? And we are very passionate people, as some of you might know, Middle Eastern people. And my middle son, who's, no, I'm sorry, my oldest, Michael, he's a VC. He would now take in that role and would ask these questions. And I imply AI to it on top of that. I'm like, oh, he brings up something. I was like, well, AI could fix that. And from there, it just um, gets into like debates and, heated debate from there. The mathematician, my middle son, Alex, he goes in and he's, try to calm everything down. He said, Dad, debate, AI is not going to take over the world. And, you still need people. And I said, I agree with you, but it's going to replace you eventually. So what are you doing about that? And I told my son the same thing, Michael, the VC. I was like, that's going to replace a lot of stuff you're doing. And, and the therapist, which is my wife, my psychotherapist's wife, she, I said, it's just a matter of time. People are gonna, they're already going for help and getting, advice from ChatGPT. Yeah, yeah, it's interesting conversations. Let's say it's very interesting
Well,
conversations.
that certainly sounds like a much
Yeah,
richer Sunday night dinner
yeah, and
than what
absolutely.
I'm
And my
used to.
daughter is a peacemaker. She tried to make peace. So Rita's the peacemaker. Then
That's
after all
amazing.
of this, my wife, her name is Amanda, the psychotherapist, starts a session, counseling session with all of us.
Wow. Okay, so I'll put this out there, Renard, for us to think about at some point. It sounds like that could be a topic of conversation.
I like it. I like it.
All right. And with that, Habib, I just want to thank you again one more time. This has been such a fun conversation.
Absolutely.
Just to put a spotlight on two or three things that I took away from this is one is you have to spend time quietly to listen to your thoughts and put them down so that you know who you are. I think that is a great way for leaders to be built. And I think you've given us plenty of examples of that. I appreciate you sharing a little bit about your family because I think that the way you come across as a leader, it looks to me like your family around you helps build and reinforces some of your own personal muscle. And
Does.
I took delight from that. So thank you for sharing that about yourself and your family. And lastly, I'll say, I love the fact that you are so big on mentorship and helping our veterans. I know that they perform a great service for our country. I
Yes,
am deeply grateful to their service, and it looks to me that you too are finding ways to give back and support that community. So again, thank you for sharing that part of it
absolutely.
with us. And Renard, any other thoughts that you want to add to that?
Be a trusted leader.
Mm,
That's what I've taken away from it. Be a trusted leader. Um, lead from the front, and that doesn't mean doing all the work, but be a
Right.
leader that people know they can trust. When you walk in the room knowing that Habib or anyone else walks in the room, that's a trusted leader that they know, hey, any project, initiative, whatever that is, transformation needs to happen. That's the person that they can rely on. So be a trusted leader.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad that, again, glad to be part of this and very humbled to be with the great lineups of great leaders and great podcasts. So I appreciate it.
Appreciate you being here, Habib. But before we say goodbye to our audience, how can the audience reach you if they want to reach you?
Uh, you could go to LinkedIn and type in trusted leader, it's hyphen leader, and you'll find me, Amir Habib, AmirHabib. Uh, Other than that, that's a great way to get a hold of me. So I definitely look forward to connecting with a lot of people. That's one thing I enjoy is people and great conversations just like this.
Fantastic. And with that, Black Belts and Boardrooms listeners, thank you again for supporting us. Thank you for listening to us. Please share this podcast with your friends and family. We love to be able to bring these leaders conversation like Habib and others so that you can get more value out of it. And with that, I will see you on the next one.
All right. Thank you, guys.